Hello, my name is Bridget McGee Houchins, and this is the book that I wrote called I Have Everything I Need. It is part of the local authors program at the San Diego City Library, and it's about traveling 20 countries on and off for 2 years, living out of a small hiking backpack, including an attempted Pacific Crest Trail thru hike. The section I'm going to read is about falling in love with cities thought to be scummy or undesirable to travel to, and actually preferring them over the picturesque tourist destinations. So this section I'm going to read is about Naples, and it's about showing up to Naples, checking into the hostel, and then heading downtown without any knowledge of what Naples is like whatsoever. We left the hostel, walked back out of the alley and onto the main road. The walk to town was very steep and longer than I expected. In fact, the more we walked, the more my expectations seemed off. Vehicles sped by, leaving fumes and smog behind them. Graffiti and murals covered most of the buildings the further we walked. What is this place? I thought. When we reached the bottom of the hill, there was a dusty old park with dry grass, a larger street with more cars and people waiting at a bus bench. To our right, the buildings got taller, older, and denser. The cobblestone alleys between buildings were tight, ancient, dark, and grimy, and they were in the direction we needed to go. The deeper we ventured in, the more people we started to see, and the more kitchens, called frigatoria, meaning a place selling fried food, offering arancini, potato croquettes, and limoncello shots on tables in the streets. We took advantage of the street food, then kept on wandering, eventually grabbing a plastic shot of limoncello to go as well. The alleys were amazing. I felt like a kid seeing Disneyland for the first time. My eyes couldn't take in enough. Old, deteriorating stone archway tunnels connected alleys together. Stores with tables of used books in the walkways. Apartment balconies held trailing green plants overhead. Bright murals on crumbling walls. This was a place your average American tourist would deem dirty and dangerous. I would later read an article stating that after being asked, many travelers chose Naples as the worst place they had ever traveled to. Only a small 13% of travelers visiting Italy even decide to visit Naples at all. Years later, after looking back at having camped on beaches in Hawaii, swam with enormous stingrays in the out islands of the Exumas, and summited snowy mountain peaks and desert island cliffs, I would still look back on Naples as one of the most beautiful places I had ever been. The graffiti became more prevalent around a large stone building. This building neighbored a small alley and was attached to an old gray stone church on its other side. The building was 5 stories tall, and at its base was wheat-pasted art flyers, layers of graffiti, and chipped yellow paint exposing gray brick underneath. A squatter's rights flag hung out of a window and an Antifa flag out of another. The sun went down and we kept walking and eating and drinking. The narrow streets opened up into a small park around a fenced-off area of ancient ruins. Every inch of the park was packed full of people of all kinds and all ages, drinking on curbs, benches, or just standing in the grass under the street lamps. Along the small park was a row of nice restaurants, one of them being a vegan restaurant, and a larger street meant for cars and not just mopeds and people drinking limoncello. I loved this place. Tim and I were smitten. We picked another path, walking through the different narrow alleys. We stopped to admire a large mural when I noticed in the alley behind us was what seemed to be a library pub. It had one large storefront window, shining a bright red light into the dark alley. Inside the window were rows and walls of books with nice furniture placed throughout. 2 chairs sat right at the window with a coffee table in between and a bar behind them. It looked like a small upscale bookstore. The library pub was dimly lit except for the red light, a few table lamps, and a light over the bar. "Take a seat," we were instructed after entering. We picked the 2 large armchairs next to the window. There were no real tables, only chairs with side tables and a small bar with 3 stools. The floor was cement but glowed red under the lights, as did the bookshelves. The full bar was lined with bookshelves, which even hung over it like an arch. There was not one wall or pillar that was not lined with the spines of books, as if the entire interior could have been made out of books. It definitely felt like I needed a robe and a cigar. Instead, I was brought a drink menu and a small bowl filled with peanuts and pretzels. "They have kwak," Tim exclaimed. It was one of the beers we tried in Belgium, which was to be poured in a tall, thin, hourglass-shaped beer glass, almost like something you would find in a science lab. The kwak glass didn't even stand up on its own. It had a wooden stand and base to hold the glass upright. You could either pick up the entire glass in its stand and tip it back to your mouth to take a sip, or take the glass out of the wooden stand to drink out of it. I'm not sure which way was correct. After returning back to the States from Europe, I looked into this important question, and the internet gave me wonderful advice, such as, you're supposed to eat the wooden handle first, then drink your beer the usual way. Or, leave the glass and holder on the bar, lean forward and try to put your mouth over the top of the entire glass, lean back with glass in mouth, and let it all pour down your throat. When finished, use the wooden holder as firewood. I thought this was common knowledge. I wonder if it actually comes in the glass, I whispered to Tim. Are you ready to order? Yes, we'll both have the kwak, thank you. A few minutes later, out comes the large, oblong beaker held in a wooden stand. I sipped my delicious science experiment, blanketed in a soft red light, my back pressed against the armchair surrounded by pristine wood bookshelves, admiring the graffiti murals in the alley our armchairs faced. I'm sure to anyone else this story sounds like I might have been on hallucinogens. No, I'm telling you, I was drinking rare beer out of a vase in a library down a dark alley in the Tijuana of Italy.